Number 10.
Monsieur Chouchani. Monsieur Shakuni, died 1968, is the nickname of an anonymous and mysterious Jewish teacher who taught a number of highly regarded students including Emmanuel Levinas, pictured above, and Elie Wiesel in Europe after World War II. Very little is known about Shakuni, including his real name. His origins and entire life history were kept a closely guarded secret. His gravestone in Montevideo, Uruguay, where he died, reads, "The wise Rabbi Shakuni of blessed memory." His birth and his life are sealed in enigma. The text was written by Elie Wiesel, who also paid for the gravestone. There is no known body of work by Shakuni himself, but he left a very strong intellectual legacy via his students. Shakuni dressed like a vagabond but was a master of vast areas of human knowledge, including science, mathematics, philosophy and especially the Talmud. Most of the details of his life that are known come from the writings and interviews with his students.
Number 9.
The Poe Toaster. The Poe Toaster is the nickname given to a mysterious man who pays annual tribute to Poe by visiting his grave every year. The strange tradition started in 1949, a century after Poe's death, and it occurs every year on the author's birthday, January 19. According to Wikipedia, in the early hours of the morning on that date, a black-clad figure, presumed to be male, with a silver-tipped cane enters the Westminster Hall and Burying Ground in Baltimore, Maryland. The individual proceeds to Poe's grave, where he or she raises a cognac toast. Before departing, the toaster leaves 3 red roses and a half-bottle of cognac on the grave. The toaster wears a black hat and coat and hides his face with a hood or scarf. Groups of reporters and admirers are often on hand to watch the event. There have been no attempts to interfere with the toaster or to unmask him, most likely out of respect for the tradition.
Number 8.
Babushka Lady. During the analysis of the film footage of the assassination of John F. Kennedy in 1963, a mysterious woman was spotted. She was wearing a brown overcoat and a scarf on her head. The scarf is the reason for her name, as she wore it in a similar style to Russian grandmothers, also called babushkas. The woman appeared to be holding something in front of her face which is believed to be a camera. She appears in many photos of the scene. Even after the shooting, when most people had fled the area, she remained in place and continued to film. Shortly after, she is seen moving away to the east up Elm Street. The FBI publicly requested that the woman come forward and give them the footage she shot, but she never did. In 1970, a woman called Beverly Oliver came forward and claimed to be the Babushka woman, though her story contains many inconsistencies. She is generally regarded as a fraud. To this day, no one knows who the Babushka woman is or what she was doing there. More unusual is her refusal to come forward to offer her evidence.
Number 7.
Casper Hauser. On May 26, 1828, a teenage boy appeared in the streets of Nuremberg, Germany. He carried a letter with him which was addressed to a captain of 6th Cavalry Regiment. The anonymous author said that the boy was given into his custody, as an infant, on the 7th October 1812, and that he had never let him take a single step out of my house. Now the boy would like to be a cavalryman, thus the captain should take him in or hang him. Hauser claimed that he had, for as long as he could think back, spent his life always totally alone in a darkened 2x1x1.5 meter cell, little more than the size of a one-person bed in area, with only a straw bed to sleep on and a horse carved out of wood for a toy. Hauser claimed that the first human being he ever had contact with had been a mysterious man who had visited him not long before his release, always taking great care not to reveal his face to him. According to contemporary rumors, probably current as early as 1829, Casper Hauser was the hereditary prince of Baden that was born on September 29, 1812 and had died within a month. It was claimed that this prince had been switched with a dying baby, and had indeed appeared 16 years later as Casper Hauser in Nuremberg. Hauser died after receiving a stab wound to the chest which was possible self-inflicted. He claimed he had been stabbed by the man who had kept him as an infant. In 2002, the University of Munster analyzed harem body cells from locks of harem items of clothing that were alleged to belong to Casper Hauser. The DNA samples were compared to a DNA segment of Astrid von Medinger, a descendant in the female line of Stephanie de Beauharnais, who would have been Casper Hauser's mother if indeed he had been the hereditary Prince of Baden. The sequences were not identical, but the deviation observed is not large enough to exclude a relationship, as it could be caused by a mutation.
Number 6.
Fulcanelli. Fulcanelli, 1839-1953, is a pseudonym of a late 19th century French alchemist and author whose identity is still unknown. Much mystery surrounds his life and works, leading to him being branded a cultural phenomenon. One of the more extravagant tales retells how his devoted pupil, Eugene Cancelliot, pictured above, successfully transformed 100 grams of lead into gold with the use of a small quantity of projection powder, given to him by his teacher. It is believed that on the verge of World War II, the Abwehr, German intelligence service, was in active, but fruitless, pursuit of Fulcanelli because of his knowledge of the technology of nuclear weapons. Fulcanelli had met with a French atomic physicist and given him accurate details regarding nuclear weapons technology, and he claimed that atomic weaponry had been used against humanity in time long past.
Number 5.
D.B. Cooper. D.B. Cooper, a.k.a. Dan Cooper, is a pseudonym given to a notorious aircraft hijacker who, on November 24, 1971, after receiving a ransom payout of $200,000, leapt from the back of a Boeing 727 as it was flying over the Pacific Northwest somewhere over the Southern Cascades. Cooper has not been seen since, and it is not known whether he survived the jump. In 1980, an 8-year-old boy found $5,800 of soggy $20 bills washed up on the banks of the Columbia River. The serial numbers matched those of the ransom money, which had been noted to make it easier to track Cooper later. Cooper escaped from the plane by jumping off the rear air stair with a parachute, leading aviation authorities to add stricter measures about the design of planes to prevent it from happening again. In addition, this event caused airports to install metal detectors for the first time.
Number 4.
Comte St Germain. The Count of St Germain, allegedly died February 27, 1784, was a courtier, adventurer, inventor, amateur scientist, violinist, amateur composer, and a mysterious gentleman. He also displayed some skills associated with the practice of alchemy. He was known as Der Wonderman, the Wonderman. He was a man whose origin was unknown and who disappeared without leaving a trace. In 1745, Horace Walpole wrote of him, "The other day they seized an odd man, who goes by the name of Count St Germain. He has been here these 2 years, and will not tell who he is, or whence, but professes that he does not go by his right name. He sings, plays on the violin wonderfully, composes, is mad, and not very sensible. He is called an Italian, a Spaniard, a Pole, a somebody that married a great fortune in Mexico, and ran away with her jewels to Constantinople, a priest, a fiddler, a vast nobleman. The Prince of Wales has had unsatiated curiosity about him, but in vain. However, nothing has been made out against him. He is released, and, what convinces me that he is not a gentleman, stays here, and talks of his being taken up for a spy. Since his death, various occult organizations have adopted him as a model figure or even as a powerful deity. In recent years, several people have claimed to be the Count of St Germain.
Number 3.
Man in the Iron Mask. The Man in the Iron Mask, died November 1703, was a prisoner held in a number of jails, including the Bastille, during the reign of King Louis XIV of France. The true identity of the man is unknown because no one ever saw his face, which was hidden by a black velvet mask. Fictional retellings of the story refer to the mask as an iron mask. The first records that mention the prisoner are from 1669, when Louis XIV's minister placed the prisoner in the care of the governor of the prison of Pignerol. According to the letter that accompanied him, the man's name was Eustache Dorger. The letter instructed the governor to prepare a cell with multiple doors, to prevent anyone outside from listening in. The prisoner was told that if he spoke to anyone of anything other than his immediate needs, he would be killed. The governor was the only person who was to see the prisoner, and he provided him with his daily food. When the prisoner died, all of his belongings were destroyed. To this day, no one knows who he was.
Number 2.
Gil Perez. Gil Perez was a Spanish soldier who suddenly appeared in Mexico City on October 26, 1593. He was wearing the uniform of the guards of the Del Gobernador Palace in the Philippines. He claimed to have no idea how he had managed to appear in Mexico. He stated that moments before finding himself there, he had been on sentry duty in Manila at the governor's palace. He told them that the governor, Don Gomez Perez das Marinas, had just been assassinated. 2 months later, news arrived from the Philippines by ship. They carried news that confirmed that the governor had been killed, and they verified other aspects of Perez's story. Witnesses confirmed that Perez had indeed been on duty in Manila just before arriving in Mexico. In addition, one of the passengers on the ship recognized Perez and swore that he had seen him in the Philippines on October 23. Perez eventually returned to the Philippines and resumed his life, which was uneventful until his death.
Number 1.
Green Children of Woolpit. The Green Children of Woolpit were 2 children who appeared in the village of Woolpit in Suffolk, UK, in the 12th century. The children were brother and sister, and they had green-colored skin. Their appearance was normal in all other areas. They spoke an unrecognized language and refused to eat anything other than pitch from bean pods. Eventually their skin lost its green color. When they learned English, they explained that they were from the land of St. Martin, which was a dark place because the sun never rose far above the horizon. They claimed that they were tending their father's herd and followed a river of light when they heard the sounds of bells, finding themselves in Woolpit. Some of the more unusual theories proposed for the origin of the children are that they were Hollow Earth children, parallel dimension children, or extraterrestrial children.